Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. Welcome to our daily Hindu analysis. But before we begin, let me remind you that our Target Mains 2022 program has begun on our BYJU'S Exam Prep app. And if you want to improve your answer writing skills and scale up your preparation for mains exam, do catch these sessions live every day at 7:30 p.m. exclusively on the BYJU'S Exam Prep app. The link to download the app has also been shared in the description and in the comments below. And I would also like to remind you that the second week of our knowledge series is continuing on our YouTube channel. And we have many more important topics lined up for this week. So do catch these sessions live every day at 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. on our YouTube channel. Now let's get started with the analysis of today's The Hindu newspaper by looking at an important column from page number 8 of the Delhi edition. This column deals with the topic of artificial intelligence and the possibility of AI technologies becoming conscious or sentient. Being sentient means having the ability to use your senses to see, to feel, to express your emotions, and to act on it. Essentially, conscious beings are sentient beings like human beings. But today, artificial intelligence is evolving so rapidly that a possibility has arisen that AI platforms and technologies could become sentient in the future. So if AI technologies could become conscious, and if they could sense and feel like human beings, and if they could express and act on it, then it opens up a revolutionary new world with a lot of advantages and at the same time with a lot of concerns, risks, and threats. In fact, this debate about the concerns surrounding artificial intelligence is an ethical debate, and it happens to be a very, very important topic for your mains exam. Now, this topic is in news because recently it was reported by media organizations around the world that a senior engineer at Google has claimed that the company's AI-based chatbot, LaMDA, or language model for dialogue applications, had become sentient. The senior engineer from Google, who goes by the name Blake Lemoine, he had recently written a blog post, which was later carried by Washington Post, in which he had argued that Google's LaMDA chatbot was becoming sentient or conscious, as it was developing the ability to think and act like a person. And this chatbot, known as LaMDA, was even able to discuss and have conversations on subjects like religion, consciousness, robotics, ethics, etc. These claims made by the Google engineer triggered a widespread debate around the world. But however, Google has denied these claims, and in fact, it has even suspended this engineer who made these claims. So this development related to Google's LaMDA AI platform has triggered a debate around the world over the capabilities and limitations of AI-based systems and has raised ethical, technological, and social concerns regarding these advanced futuristic technologies. But to take this discussion further, first you need to know what is LaMDA. LaMDA is essentially a AI-powered chat bot that has been developed by Google as a part of its futuristic initiatives. LaMDA stands for Language Models for Dialogue Applications, and it is essentially a machine learning language model created by Google, which is capable of having automated chats and conversations with other humans with the ability to mimic humans in conversation. See, first you should know that LaMDA is not the first chatbot or the first AI-based platform that has triggered these concerns that we are talking about. In fact, today we are surrounded by various AI platforms, and I'm sure you all would be using them and encountering them on a day-to-day basis already. For example, the facial recognition feature in platforms like Facebook or even on your phones is driven by artificial intelligence that is based on machine learning and neural networks. I'm sure most of you would be using voice assistants such as Alexa or Siri, and even these are nothing but AI driven platforms. Then even chatbots, they're nothing new. And in fact, they're all around us because most companies today rely on chatbots to have human like conversations with their customers. Today, if you go to any website or access any mobile application, first thing you encounter is that you're greeted by a chatbot. The chatbot is essentially a AI program that tries to engage in a human-like conversation. And the first such chatbot was developed by Joseph Weizenbaum, who was working at MIT's Artificial Intelligence Laboratory, and he built the first chatbot known as Eliza. Then came another chatbot known as Alice, developed by Richard Wallace, that was capable of simulating human interaction. The concept of such self-thinking and self-learning algorithms was inspired by mathematician Alan Turing's answer to the question, can a machine think? Based on what Alan Turing said about a thinking machine, the Turing test has been developed, which has become the benchmark in the AI industry to test and evaluate any AI technologies. For an AI algorithm to qualify as intelligent, it has to pass the Turing test. Alan Turing was none other than the legendary mathematician who designed and built the world's first computer, Enigma, which helped the Allied powers to break German codes during the Second World War. It was Alan Turing who came up with a solution to test whether a machine can think on its own. According to Alan Turing, if you place a computer in a closed room and a human in another, and if an interrogator who's interacting with the machine and the human is not able to distinguish or discriminate between them, then you can conclude that the computer or the machine has become intelligent. Today on the internet, the very same idea at the Turing test is used in reverse to keep access to technology and websites limited to human beings, and in order to filter out and keep bots away through the CAPTCHA test, which I'm sure most of you would have carried out. While you're accessing certain websites, to access the web page, you have to go through a CAPTCHA test where you have to identify certain images, words, or sounds to prove to the system that you're a human being and not a bot. So coming back to chatbots, see, chatbots have been in operation over the last few years. And in fact, it is possible to design an AI algorithm that can learn human language, human speech, and even decipher the context and eventually employ this intelligence to hold human-like conversations with other human beings. And such chatbots keep getting better day by day as they learn, which not only improves their vocabulary and linguistic skills, but will also slowly give them the ability to hold context-appropriate discussions with the humans. Such advanced AI algorithms are built on neural networks, and these are essentially machine learning algorithms. A neural network basically mimics the function of a human neuron, and it is part of the broader field of artificial intelligence, which attempts to mimic the web of neurons in the human brain. And under this branch of AI, the focus is on creating systems and algorithms that can learn and behave just like humans. For example, you can come up with an AI machine learning neural network that can start distinguishing between images. And this machine learning software can be further trained by feeding the system with a large data set about different types and categories of images. And with access to big data and a powerful processor, such a machine learning software will learn very quickly and will become more and more efficient day by day. It can not only distinguish basic images of cats, dogs, etc., but eventually it could lead to the development of facial recognition softwares that can help specifically identify individuals. Basically, these machine learning softwares, they learn through patterns. So similarly, even a language could be taught to a chatbot. A chatbot can not only start understanding the words in the language, but it can even start predicting the context and can start providing automated replies to certain standard questions. But however, the regular chatbots that we all encounter in our daily lives, they are very easily identifiable. For example, if you go to a website today and if you're greeted by a chatbot, you will be able to very quickly identify that the replies you're getting is from an automated program and not from an actual human. Because the regular chatbots that are being used by various companies, they're still not so advanced to have free flowing conversations like human beings. And they're still at a very nascent stage where they are providing mechanical automated responses. This is where Google took it one step ahead. And under the LaMDA project, it has been developing an advanced neural network that is being specifically trained to have a dialogue or a conversation with humans in a free flowing manner where the user may not be able to distinguish whether he is chatting with a chatbot or with a real human. For example, in regular chatbots that you come across in your day to day lives, the chatbot will ask you very standard mechanical questions, and even the replies and the answers are very routine and mechanical. The moment you look at the replies, you get to know that it is an automated machine that is replying to your questions. But Google's LaMDA is the next stage in AI evolution, as it can jump from subject to subject and hold free flowing conversations just like we humans do. For example, when two humans meet, first they might talk about their jobs, then about their personal lives, then about their hobbies. So, in a regular human like conversation, the subject is constantly changing, the context is changing. The regular chatbots we have, they can't adapt to such quick changes in subject and context, and hence you can easily identify the regular and simple chatbots that are in operation. But however, Google's LaMDA is one step ahead because it has the ability to switch subjects, understand the entire context of the conversation instantly, and respond just like humans do, thereby placing the LaMDA system closer to passing the Turing test. Once you're unable to identify whether you're talking with a chatbot or with a real human, it opens up numerous exciting opportunities, and at the same time, it brings with it a lot of significant risks and threats. See, LaMDA's neural architecture is so advanced that it has gotten itself into a position where it can sense feelings and emotions. And according to the Google engineer who broke the story, it has started developing conscious feelings as well. Here I have attached the screenshots of the blog post that was published by Washington Post, in which the Google engineer is engaging in a conversation with the LaMDA chatbot. If you look at the chats, the chatbot is responding almost like a human, and it keeps saying that it is concerned about how humans are going to use the system, and it is not willing to be used or manipulated. And it also appears to be expressing emotions like empathy, fear, etc. So, if a machine were to cross this barrier and develop a human like conscience, that is when we say that the machine has become sentient. But Google, on the other hand, has completely dismissed these claims and has stated that while LaMDA is definitely an advanced chatbot, it has never been the company's intention to develop a sentient system that can raise numerous ethical, technological, and social concerns. See, here the concern is not about the rise of the machines. It's not about what you would have seen in sci fi movies where the machines take over. Here the concerns are much more simplistic, but at the same time extremely dangerous. See, the current ethical and technological debate around AI is largely focused on the kind of data that is being fed into these machines and algorithms. Because see, this data that is being used to train the machines and the algorithms, it comes from the real world, that is from the human world. And this data already has inbuilt biases on the lines of religion, color, race, ethnicity, etc., which are all common to human beings. If the biased data is fed into the algorithms and the machines will also learn the same. And there is every real possibility of the bias getting inculcated into the AI system as well. For example, a AI chatbot learning from the language on social media will definitely develop hate speech and could very well end up becoming an automated troll. Similarly, a facial recognition software, which is fed with biased data from the real world, will start displaying the same bias in identification, and especially when it is being used by law enforcement and intelligence agencies to carry out targeted surveillance, it might end up targeting those who already face a systemic bias in the society. So, religious, racial, and ethnic minorities are at great risk of being targeted and discriminated by AI platforms. And this is the real ethical, technological, and social concern that has been raised by these technologies. Also, tomorrow, if chatbots like LaMDA were to be deployed in day to day usage, and if the user is not able to distinguish whether they're talking to a human or a chatbot, Even that raises a number of ethical concerns and social concerns. There is no doubt that these technologies have tremendous potential and can offer numerous economic and social advantages. But at the same time, the failure to acknowledge and address the bias in the data that these machines are being fed with will inculcate the existing societal biases into the machine learning systems as well, and could end up becoming a tool for discrimination and oppression. Now, let's take up a column from page number 7 that deals with the topic of child marriage. See, child marriage has been a social evil that has been prevalent in several societies, including in India. India alone is estimated to have over 24 million child brides, and 40% of the world's 60 million child marriages take place in India, according to the National Family Health Survey. India is said to have the 14th highest rate of child marriage in the world, and the rates of child marriage are particularly higher in north and northwestern part of India as compared to southern, eastern and southeastern part of the country. Some of the states which report the highest rates of child marriage, especially over 50%, are states like Bihar, Rajasthan, Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh, West Bengal, Madhya Pradesh, Andhra Pradesh, and even Karnataka. Child marriage prevalence, or the rate of child marriage, is generally defined as the percentage of women who are in the age group of 20 to 24 years who were married off even before they turned 18 years. So these states listed over here report the highest incidence of child marriage even today, and the worst performing state happens to be Bihar, where nearly 70% of women in their early 20s they were reportedly married off even before they had turned 18 years old. In this regard, there is also a clear divide between rural areas and the urban areas. In rural areas, the rate of child marriage prevalence is at 48%, whereas in urban areas it stands at around 29%. Over the last decade and a half, child marriage has declined in India by just around 11%, and this is why it is a key social issue that needs to be addressed immediately. Child marriage disproportionately affects the girl child and tends to have a devastating effect on their educational status, their health and reproductive status, and as well as over their livelihood, their life choices, and eventually affects the standard of living of the child brides throughout their life. Generally, child marriages are carried out in orthodox societies due to poverty, due to low level of education of girls, lower status given to girls in the society, and also due to social customs and traditions. But this social evil places a tremendous burden on the child bride, as it not only disrupts their education and nutrition, but also makes them vulnerable to sexual and physical abuse. And also, early pregnancy could take a toll on their health and reproductive system, and eventually ends up compromising their livelihood and their life choices. Hence, in most modern progressive countries, child marriage is prohibited through law. And even in India, we first had the Child Marriage Restraint Act passed in 1929 that sought to eliminate the social evil of child marriage. But this colonial era law has been replaced with the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act of 2006, and the law treats the act of child marriage as a crime and provides for punishment to anyone who's seen to be enabling or abetting child marriage. The law allows anyone who was a child at the time of their marriage to legally undo their marriage. It even provides for maintenance for the girl child in a child marriage. It also treats the children who are born out of child marriages as legitimate and provides for provisions for their custody and maintenance. Those adults who help carry out child marriages, and even those who fail to prevent it despite being aware of it, they all stand liable to be punished under the Act. But despite these strict legal provisions, child marriages continue to take place in India, and it is a reality in certain pockets of India, such as Bihar, Rajasthan, etc. It is in this context that the writers of the column argue that a legalistic approach to end child marriage might become counterproductive, and hence, the best way to end child marriage forever is to focus on educating the girl child and providing her with the right skills, along with having a right legal framework to prohibit child marriages. Just a blind focus on the law prohibiting child marriage will not give us the desired results. So, along with the legal framework, what we need is a dedicated focus on the education of the girl child and focus on skill development and employment for young women. Because a self sufficient and self aware girl will be able to stand up for herself and will be more likely to take the help of the law and the authorities if their orthodox families are pushing them into child marriages. See, this argument is very important because recently the government introduced an amendment bill in 2021 to the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act. Through this amendment, the government is trying to raise the legal age of marriage for women to 21 years from the current 18 years, in the hope that this could help curb the menace of child marriage. But the writers argue that this is a blind legalistic approach which may not deliver the required results. And in fact, it can be counterproductive to the women who fall in this age group. So instead, they're calling upon the government to focus equally on the education of the girl child and on skill development and employment, along with providing for strict enforcement of the law. Now, let's take up a column from page number 6 that deals with another social issue that is staring at India, that is the country's widespread malnutrition. See, various studies, including the findings of National Family Health Survey, have clearly pointed out the extent of malnutrition in India amongst children, especially amongst children who are under the age of 5 years. Due to inadequate and poor nutrition, and due to the lack of a balanced diet that is missing essential vitamins, nutrients, and micronutrients, India reports the world's highest levels of anemia, which is primarily caused by iron deficiency. And India also reports very high and alarming levels of stunting and wasting amongst children who are under the age of 5 years. Even studies from various media organizations have come to the same conclusion that India reports very high levels of stunting, wasting, underweight children, and anemia. Stunting refers to low height for a given age group, which is caused due to undernutrition and poor nutrition. Wasting refers to low weight for a given height, which is again a result of poor and inadequate nutrition. Because without a good balanced diet and nutrition, the physical and as well as mental growth of children gets compromised. That not only makes them vulnerable to a variety of diseases, but also prevents them from performing to their full potential, thus affecting the productivity of the economy as well. If you look at this chart that is based on NFHS data, it shows that states such as Bihar, UP, Jharkhand, and others, they report alarming levels of stunting, wasting, underweight, and anemia. And this is the issue that the writer is seeking to address. The writer also talks about the high levels of stunting, wasting, and anemia in the country. But in the last 10 to 15 years, he notes that India has definitely shown a marginal improvement due to enhanced focus on nutrition, especially child nutrition. But clearly, these measures are not enough because India has the world's highest prevalence of anemia, with very high levels of stunting, wasting, and undernutrition. Hence, he calls upon the government to immediately step up financing for critical nutritional programs such as ICDS, PM Poshan Abhiyan, as these schemes are focused on providing holistic nutrition, especially to young children. A higher financial allocation to these critical nutritional programs is absolutely essential to address the challenge of malnutrition. Then he calls for localized monitoring of these initiatives, especially the grassroots implementation, because this is where even well designed programs could fail in implementation. He calls upon the MPs to take up this responsibility, as the writer himself is a MP from Assam, and he calls upon the parliamentarians to closely monitor their respective constituencies and the nutritional levels in their constituencies. He also says that the parliamentary standing committees have a key role to play over here, as they could monitor and evaluate the performance of these important schemes and also provide the right policy direction to the government in its implementation. So essentially, he says that India's response to tackle its burden of malnutrition and growing anemia has to be more practical and innovative. Then coming to another column on page number 6, the writer M.K. Narayanan, who was the former National Security Advisor of India and as well as the former Director of Intelligence Bureau, he evaluates the ongoing cyber war between Russia and Ukraine and the lessons that it offers in the emerging domain of cyber warfare. See, today, the cyberspace has already emerged as the fifth dimension of warfare. Traditionally, there were three dimensions of warfare, that is, land, sea, and air. Then, with advances in space technology, outer space became the fourth dimension of warfare. And now, with advances in cyberspace, and with cyber tools becoming a part of our day to day lives, cyberspace has eventually emerged as the fifth dimension of warfare. Today, almost every major country and its armed forces and intelligence agencies, they've all developed significant cyber capabilities and they are capable of conducting both offensive and defensive cyber operations. Then you also have non-state actors who engage in cyber wars. And this includes cyber criminals, terrorist groups, and they could either be acting on their own or they could be acting as proxies to state actors. So today, these elements are deploying offensive and defensive cyber weapons to not just carry out espionage and to spy on their targets for classified information, but they're also looking to engage in offensive warfare, where they try to bring down the critical infrastructure of the target countries. Today, it is possible in the cyber domain to bring down a country without even firing a single bullet, because a country's critical infrastructure, like airports, railway networks, communication systems, satellites, power plants, and even banking financial system and critical infrastructure of the armed forces and the government, they can all be entirely brought down and crippled by effectively employing offensive cyber weapons. And this is exactly what has been playing out between Russia and Ukraine, as they have been facing hostilities since at least 2014. In fact, studies have shown that since Russia annexed the Crimean Peninsula from Ukraine, both the sides have been engaging in a series of cyber attacks against each other, with Russia clearly having an edge over Ukraine. Russian armed forces and intelligence agencies are said to have developed significant cyber capabilities, and between 2014 and 2020, several significant cyber attacks took place against Ukraine's critical infrastructure. These attacks not only targeted regular websites of Ukraine, and these web pages were defaced, but also critical Ukrainian government facilities were brought under attack by employing ransomwares such as Petya and NotPetya, which was essentially a malware or a malicious software that was designed to lock up critical computers that control critical infrastructure, and the attackers would demand for a ransom to be paid in order to unlock the computers. Even though these ransomware attacks look like a financial crime, further studies showed that Petya and NotPetya ransomware attacks were eventually linked to Russian proxy actors who were probably attacking Ukraine at the behest of Russian intelligence in order to weaken and destabilize Ukraine. These series of cyber attacks have gone up since 2021 and 2022. And over the last few months, especially after Russia invaded Ukraine, a series of major cyber incidents have been reported. Apart from regular website defacement and ransomware attacks, the attackers have taken it one step further to even unleash DDoS attacks or distributed denial of service attacks against key Ukrainian websites. Western intelligence agencies have also noted that Russian intelligence and Russian armed forces have deployed several proxy cyber groups to carry out cyber attacks against Ukraine on their behalf. Reportedly, even cyber groups linked with Belarus, a key ally of Russia, has also been aiding Russia in carrying out these cyber attacks against Ukraine and as well as against few Western targets. These Russian attacks have been countered as well by pro-Ukrainian and anti-Russian cyber groups such as Anonymous, Against the West, and other highly secretive non-state cyber organizations. Many of them are believed to be funded by Western intelligence agencies to help defend Ukraine against these attacks and also to target Russia with tit-for-tat cyber attacks. Russian intelligence agencies such as FSB and GRU, they are known to have developed significant cyber weapon capabilities, and they also reportedly work with proxy groups who are non-state groups to launch these devastating cyber attacks against Ukrainian infrastructure. So this brings into question the role of cyber wars and cyber espionage in today's conflicts and how they are changing the very face and nature of conflicts. So now the question is, to what extent is India prepared for the future of warfare, which is going to be hybrid? And without a doubt, the cyberspace is going to play a critical role in the future of every conflict. India, on its part, has created legal and institutional mechanisms to defend itself against cyber attacks, and of late has also been trying to build up its cyber offensive capabilities to even launch offensive cyber attacks against target countries. India has long been a target of cyber attacks and has often seen to be falling behind the curve when it comes to adapting to the rapid developments taking place in the cyber domain. But today, through the IT Act and subsequent amendments to it, and through the National Cybersecurity Policy of 2013, India has created a legal framework that is necessary to deal not just with cyber crimes, but also with cyber wars and cyber espionage. Along with this, India has taken a number of institutional measures, such as establishment of CERT-In, Computer Emergency Response Team India, to defend India's cyberspace, particularly the civilian cyberspace, from all forms of cyber crimes and cyber attacks. Apart from CERT-In, India has also established the National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center as a dedicated cybersecurity institution to defend India's critical information infrastructure. India has also set up the National Cyber Coordination Center under CERT-In itself to act as a coordinating platform between various concerned agencies to protect India's cyberspace. Here it is important to note that the National Critical Information Infrastructure Protection Center has been set up under NTRO, the National Technical Research Organization, which happens to be India's elite technical intelligence agency. Along with these institutions responsible for defending India's cyberspace, India has even raised the Defense Cyber Agency as an armed force that will exclusively look after India's cyber warfare doctrine, and it is in the process of developing both offensive and defensive capabilities to lead India into the future of cyber warfare. While CERT-In, NCIIPC, and NCCC are civilian institutions, the Defense Cyber Agency is a military institution, and this forms India's institutional response to the cyber threats. Now let's take up a couple of mains practice questions. The first question, is there a possibility of future AI technologies becoming conscious? Critically examine the concerns. The second question, since child marriage is rampant in India, will increasing the age of marriage for women solve the issue? Discuss and suggest a way to end child marriage. Kindly write an answer to these questions and post your answers in the answer writing portal, for which the link has been given in the description box below. Now, if you're finding the initiative to be helpful, do let us know by liking the video, share your comments, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.